Hello and welcome to a first look at the High School Fleet Civilization led by Misaki Akeno. The best way to experience this, like always, is to actually download it and try for it yourself. So let's start by looking at the unique ability, which is very much oriented towards a naval style of play. You can see here that the civilization has benefits when it comes to reduction in terms of naval unit maintenance costs by 50%, and also in terms of amphibious landings and assaults, gaining 2 extra movements whilst embarking, and also when disembarking only costing 1 movement point. All units that can gain the amphibious promotion, which will be gunpowder and melee units, will also gain the amphibious promotion right off the bat. There will be no need to promote them. Also, you cannot build tanks, so that is the downsides of playing as the High School Fleet Civilization. This means that the civilization is very much oriented towards naval play and naval conquest. Also, this civilization has 3 unique units and 1 unique building. We'll take a closer look at these once we're in the game. So without further ado, let's get into the game. So to start off with, we're going to take a look at the 3 unique units. They are the Harikaze, the Musashi, and the Advanced Cruiser. We'll start off with the Harikaze. The Harikaze is a replacement for the Destroyer. As such, it is stronger than Destroyer at 60 combat strength. The Harikaze, like the Musashi here, which we'll talk about in a bit, has its own set of unique promotions. No other units in the game will have access to these promotions. You can see an example of this here. Harikaze torpedoes. These promotions tend to provide either an offensive or a utilitarian playstyle or a defensive playstyle, depending on which of the ships that you're looking at. The Harikaze in the anime was mainly a scout, so therefore it has all the promotions that are relevant to that. It can do quick hit-and-run attacks by going for the torpedoes, or it can increase its sight range, which is already pretty good. Let's take a look at the branching promotion tree that this will offer you. I'm going to take the torpedoes as an example. Now you can see we gain access to a new promotion, the guns. This will provide extra bonuses against other naval units and cities, and also provides 1 extra interception per turn, which is fairly useful. So again, we'll take the guns. And you can see, once again, that we can take on another promotion that follows on from that. So each of these units that are unique to the High School Fleet Civilization will have their own unique promotion trees that you can go down and explore. I will not cover all of the promotions, just some of the interesting ones. If you want to see all the promotions, you're more than welcome to when you actually downloaded the mod, as there are quite a few of them. Now we're going to move on to the Musashi. The Musashi is as you can probably see, a battleship replacement. And as such, it is a stronger battleship. But it has its own costs. For example, it takes 2 oil to run the Musashi, unlike the vanilla version, which only requires 1. But for those sacrifices and those costs, you get a very strong battleship, albeit a bit slower. Again, it has its own set of unique promotions that you can go through. If we go for the AAA, you can see that we gain access to something called secondary armaments, which we can boost again and get something called targeting computers, which provides a lot of bonuses. And once we have all of those promotions, we can even get an improved reloader, which allows us extra attacks per turn. So you can see, these promotions really do affect the way you play a particular ship. On the defensive side, we have things like the armor package, damage control, or even better damage control. All very useful. Lastly, we're going to take a look at the Advanced Cruiser. The Advanced Cruiser is a replacement of the Missile Cruiser. And unlike the Missile Cruiser, it actually requires aluminium, as you can see here. However, despite that cost, it is actually weaker in terms of melee combat strength compared to the vanilla missile cruiser. It only has a combat strength of 70 on the defense, when the melee strength of the default missile cruiser has 80 combat strength. The range combat strength, however, remains the same. So what are the benefits then of owning the advanced cruiser as compared to the missile cruiser? Well, for starters, you can clearly see that the advanced cruiser can move a whopping 9 tiles per turn. It is very quick. It also starts with targeting 1, which allows you to get fairly interesting promotion combinations if you have a lot of experience buildings such as barracks, armory, military academy, or even Brandenburg Gate stacked together. Also, it has the normal promotions as you would expect from a missile cruiser against anti-aircraft and things like that. But the most important thing that the advanced cruiser can do that the missile cruiser cannot is the ability to carry 6 cargo, which means you can carry up to 6 missiles on the advanced cruiser. It also has the ability to intercept twice per turn, as opposed to once in the normal missile cruiser. So fairly formidable in terms of offensive power and carrying capacity. So those are the unique units of the High School Fleet Civilization. Now let's take a look at the unique building, which is called the Floating District. So here we are looking at the Floating Districts. The Floating Districts is a building replacement for the factory. Unlike the factory, it's not exactly a direct production boosting building. It only provides a meager 1 production to the city. There are also no modifiers to production, unlike the factory, which gains 10% extra production. However, the Floating District does not require coal, and instead provides a plus 50% production when building naval units. It also provides plus 5% science in the city, a minor boost. But what's the most important part about the Floating District is the fact that it makes sea tiles and coast tiles a lot more valuable, and it makes sea resources a whole bunch more valuable, as it provides 1 production, food and gold for each sea tile within your borders, and also an additional production, food and gold to sea tiles with sea resources. This means a fish resource, for example, will gain 2 production, 2 food and 2 gold from this building alone. Remember, all of these bonuses still stack with vanilla buildings, such as the lighthouse and the seaport. Also, this floating district will grant you 3 tourism upon the discovery of combustion, which is when the Harikaze will become available. And finally, it also increases the amount of gold gained from city connections by 10%. So therefore, you would want this building in almost all of your cities, if the city can build them. And all sea trade routes originating from the city have 25% increase in range and produce an additional 2 gold per turn when connecting to another civilization. A minor buff. The downsides of this are you require 4 of these instead of 3 in order to get an ideology, which means that you need a minimum of 4 cities and all of them having this building constructed in order to choose your ideology before the modern era. Unlike the factory, where you only require 3. Lastly, the floating district, being floating districts, must be therefore on the coast and also requires the harbor to be built within the city first, before you can actually construct the floating district. So that is also extra production that you need to put in before you have even access to the floating district. And one more thing, the cost of the floating district is 430, as compared to 360. A significant increase in the amount of time it will take to build the floating districts. However, the bonuses of these buildings are very good, and therefore you should aim to build them in as many cities as you can. Now let's take a look at the synergy that the floating district can provide with things like the lighthouse and the seaport in the vanilla game. So I have set up 3 examples, one with common fish, one with whales as a luxury, and one with oil. Immediately you can see, in order to build the floating district, you need the harbor. Without the harbor, you will not be able to produce the floating district. Before we actually get into it, let's just take a look at the vanilla yields. You can see here, without any bonus buildings such as the lighthouse, the fish yields 2 food, the whale yields 2 food and 1 gold, and the oil yields 1 food and 1 production. So let's build a lighthouse, as that is the first building that you will unlock whilst playing the game. So now we have constructed a lighthouse, and as you can see, the yields have gone up significantly. From the lighthouse description, it's +1 food for fish and +1 food for ocean tiles, and also +1 production from sea resources worked by the city. So that is now why the fish resource gained 2 food and 1 production, the whale gained 1 food and 1 production, and the oil gained 1 food and 1 production. Makes sense. So now let's take a look at what happens once we have built the seaport. If we take a look at the seaport here, it says it will provide 1 gold and 1 production to every ocean resource, i.e. fish, oil, and whale. And of course things like crabs and pearls as well, but we are not covering those examples. So let us build the seaport next. Now that we've constructed the seaport, as expected, we have gained 1 gold and 1 production from the fish, 1 gold and 1 production from the whale, and also 1 gold and 1 production from the oil. This is on unimproved resources, by the way. So lastly, let's build the floating district and see what benefits that brings us. So now we have built the floating district. So let's check the tile yields now. And you can see the tile yields are pretty impressive. We now have 3 gold, 4 production, and 6 food from 1 fish resource, 4 gold, 4 production, and 5 food from 1 whale resource, and 3 gold, 5 production, 4 food from the oil resource, which is fairly significant. Of course, on normal tiles such as coast or ocean, the yields will not be as significant as this because the lighthouse and the seaport do not benefit those as greatly. So now you can see that the sea tile, or in this case a coast tile, has 3 food, 1 production, and 1 gold attributed to it, which makes these tiles actually fairly good in terms of growth. So you can see floating districts will benefit you greatly when it comes to coastal cities, and is undoubtedly one of the most important buildings that you want to build, and you should prioritize building, albeit it is a little hard to build a building due to its high costs. Also remember that these tile yields are absolutely non-improved, which means that the yields will be even greater once you've improved the tiles. So that concludes the High School Fleet Civilization first look. Hopefully you enjoyed, and tell me in the comments how you will command High School Fleet. Take care.